What's going on, everybody? It's Brian Trippe. I want to welcome you to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Live podcast. We interview the very best real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and business leaders all throughout this great country. And I am doing a solo intro. I'm doing a solo intro because, like, what happens every once in a while is I'll start the podcast and me and whoever the guest is I'm interviewing, we just jump right into it. No intros at all. We just go full force right on into the podcast. And my great friend Aaron Chapman is joining me on this show where we talk about a lot of awesome stuff. We talk about inflation, the rate of inflation. What is the true rate of inflation? What is the true worth of your dollar today? And Aaron is an absolute, I don't know of any other way to say this, but Aaron is an absolute bad ass MFer. I would cuss if I cussed a lot, but this dude is absolutely incredible. You're going to get so much out of this. Aaron is the owner of a really large mortgage brokerage based out of Phoenix, based out of Arizona, and he does a lot of the just conventional loans for most of the big name if not all, most of the big name turnkey companies that are out there. And I know you guys have heard me talk about this a lot. Birmingham is a cash flowing market. We've got a lot of turnkey companies right here in our town. There's turnkey companies all throughout this country in different cash flowing markets. Well, Aaron is like the go-to guy for conventional financing, but he is the conventional mortgage guy. So I'm just so pleased to introduce this episode to you. And I want to just kind of leave you with one quick story that I do allude to a little bit in the episode, but I just want to just brag on Aaron a little bit more. When I first launched this podcast, it was called ALAREA at the time, the Alabama Real Estate Investor Association, and the podcast was the ALAREA Masterclass Podcast. We've since rebranded. We rebranded about October, November last year. And, we're just running with it since about episode 88 or so. So we're almost, about 40 episodes in now that we've done with the rebrand with REI Live, Real Estate Investing Live. Well, Aaron, back in March of 2017, came out to Birmingham. He was the very first out-of-state speaker that we ever had come to our REIA and speak to us, and he did an incredible job. We have it recorded. It's on our YouTube channel. I'm going to link it up in the show notes, the Aaron Chapman keynote from March of 2017. We're going to link that up in the show notes because he absolutely crushed it. But guys, I want to introduce you to just an incredible man, an incredibly smart, super, super smart individual. And you guys are going to get so much out of this episode. I'm so excited to bring you this, Aaron Chapman.
How about you, man? What's your recreation?
My recreation?
I know that's the Alabama football games. I know that.
Alabama football for sure. Spending time with kids, man, is been my little. They're 2 and 4, so they're so small. It's tough to be away from them. I play guitar. I don't really do a ton. I read a lot. I read a ton. I'm reading about between 2 and 3 hours a day right now. So that is definitely a lot of reading. I try and put in about an hour a day. Yeah. And no, that's an hour is awesome. Most people can't do 10 minutes. So I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to eat better. I'm trying to exercise a little bit more, things like that. So, but right now, man, I'm super focused on family, which I feel like I need to be. They're so young. Me and my wife were kind of butting heads a little bit about 6-8 months ago. And, I've tried to make a lot of wholesale changes. I'm still traveling, probably 2 times a month, but they're short trips. They're 2-day trips, 3-day trips. So just trying to be more intentional about being a husband, being a father.
Yeah, so I'm trying. I've been resetting how I'm doing stuff. I'm shortening the trips as much as I can. Get in, get out. I'll still have once every 6 months a whirlwind 2-week trip. It just happens. And it's an ass whooper when that comes about. And I just had one to Chicago. Literally, I flew in on one day, spent one night, and flew right back out. Right. And so that's not, that's not a fun trip, but it got me home. And I'm trying to be home on Sundays. Every Sunday I'm supposed to be home. Except when I'm in Missouri, I'll spend a week at a time there because it's home. It's a second home, basically. And
so
next time I'm taking.
Yeah, I'm sure you're probably about to say this. Is that a place that you're going to take your family to on a consistent basis, you think?
Oh yeah, as often as I can. So this next week I'm taking, or it's the 23rd. I'm taking two of my daughters with me. I'm going to be there. They're going to be there a week with me, and I'm going to be there another 3 days, and I fly out to Dallas. So, and actually, I'm filming my very first episode for the YouTube channel I'm starting up out there. So it's the outdoor channel meets the business channel. You've got us going bow fishing or fly fishing or off-roading in Arizona or long-range shooting in Arizona, and then we're going to be sitting around the fire, grilling a steak, and having a deep conversation. So the conversation we're having right now would be having around a fire with the steaks going, and we're just chatting. I have a film crew be wandering around and getting the information from us, and then cutting it all up to where the intro is going to be, the boat racing across the water, and then shots with the drone going overhead of us, bow fishing at night, or you're watching the Jeeps crawling through stuff, and then so it's in the works. My first episode is getting shot around the cabin, with the participants and tree stands, working on their visions for the future. And then we're going to come in and sit and talk about that and how I'm going to start incorporating that into people's lives. And there'll be a time that you're going to have an opportunity to come out there and participate in this. And if it's not good, solid, honest people with something to give, then piss off. You're not getting involved. I'm tired of the people that are spending time and taking people's money and not doing their part. If people aren't doing that, they're not going to get shit from me. If people are doing a good job, and they're being the type of people they should be, and they're standing up and having integrity, then I'm gonna scream that person's name from the rooftops, and I'm gonna be sure that this show, I'm gonna work my guts out to be sure that this thing has some traction, just because the people who are on it and need the traction, not because Aaron Chapman. Nobody gives a damn about Aaron Chapman. I want to make sure the people out there that are doing good, solid, integrous work are gonna get known.
When do you project for this show to be released, like the first episode to come out? A couple months?
I'm going to try and get in a couple months. I'm trying to get the first 3 filmed in one shot.
That's awesome. I
figure if I bring two to three people at a time, I can do some really cool crap with 2 to 3 people and get a lot of footage and 3 different interviews, and then release 3 shows from one outing.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You're living your vision. You're living what you've envisioned.
Exactly.
I think that's very few people do that. It's awesome.
Well, it's a way for me to give the content that I'm trying to give to everybody every day. I'm talking to every single client every day about stuff like, where is a property really valuable? It's not in, I know that Kiyosaki says it's in the buy. Okay, partially. And I know that others bankers will say it's in the interest rate. And others will say it's in the cash flow. And others say it'll be on the cash on cash return or the cap rate or whatever. It's not. None of those damn things. It's in the leverage. Your ability to leverage that property. This is my opinion. If Aaron Chapman's going to scream this, I'm going to go against everybody else and say it's in the leverage. Get as much leverage as you can, as long as you possibly can. I'm saying that to everyone. But now I only have so much time. When I'm on the phone with 9 people a day for a half hour to 45 minutes at a time, at the end of the day, I'm 2 brain cells away from a talking monkey. So now I got to get this completely blown up and out there, the whole world sees it, and then I bring in the people that can actually help them accomplish it. Yeah. Bring in the guys that can do the infinite banking stuff. My buddy Gary, who does an awesome job, and Joey does an awesome job. And then there's the people that bring the properties in, and then yourself who is wholesaling the properties to those who are rehabbing them and putting investors into them. That chain of people needs to be recognized. They need to be put a face to name, and the world needs to say there is a handful of people out there that are getting it done, and you can find them over here.
Love it. It's awesome stuff, man. I want to talk about all that stuff, and I also want to talk about. You tell me, you just told me you're working on the show, you're working on things like that. What's the one kind of message or nugget you want to make sure you convey to the people who are listening? Is there something I can promote for you?
Right. Well, I don't know if it's anything I can promote at the moment because I got a lot of irons in the fire that are going to come to fruition. It's just taking time, right? Yeah, put so many things in place.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm just promoting the business that breads my table, which is financing loans, financing houses, financing investors, financing people buying a home. And the thing it is that the nugget that people need to walk away with really is to take the time to really think through and understand what they're getting into, and look at depth of it, of what the real value is, and not what they see on TV, not what they see in the pop-up ads, not what's being regurgitated by everybody. Yeah. Crowds, the crowd of just humans, they get led, right? You're being led to wherever you're going to buy something by your freaking nose at what you think is cheapest or fastest. That's why Amazon's kicking ass. That's why Walmart's kicking ass. It's not what is the best, right? So the people that know what they're doing, they lead themselves. So the main thing that I want everybody to understand is when you start stepping into the world of buying real estate, you start stepping in there to be an investor, whether you're buying turnkeys, or you're getting into multis, or you're going to start flipping or wholesaling. You're the CEO of your business, not a damn person that you get anything from, that you get insurance, that you get loan, that you buy the property from. None of that stuff is responsible for you. You're responsible for you. And if your business is not being done the way it's supposed to be done and you're not getting the outcome, the only person you have to blame is you, period. I've picked up properties where I got screwed. I'm not going to go blame that guy. I blame me. I got a plumber out there and a roofer out in Missouri right now jerking me off. The situation is, it's my fault because I'm not there. I can't hold them accountable. It's my freaking fault. I didn't sit them down face to face saying, this is what I want. I want this done. And you don't do it, pound sand. Didn't happen. So now I'm not quite begging, but I'm darn near at that point. Say, guys, come on, finish this up. And it's driving me insane. So they're not. I don't think they're doing good business. And it's my fault that I brought them into the fold. Period. And if things aren't working in your business, it's your fault. And if you can take ownership of it, it's amazing how it just works. Because then you don't feel bad about pushing that person aside. So once something you're not a good person to work in my business. Think of it as like a board table. You're the business owner. You're the CEO. You've got this imaginary board table in front of you, and every person at that board table needs to be able to bring something of value to you to be able to make a decision on. So what I always put myself out there as they're kind of like their fractional CFO. I'll do the loan. That's how I bread my table. I finance the property. But I have seen thousands of people make good decisions. I've seen thousands of people make bad decisions. I've seen success. I've seen failure in this. I will give you the best data I can, but you still make the decision. I want to be at that table to give you all the information you need to be successful, where you should really look at the value of real estate and quit getting wrapped up into trying to time the market and when's it going to be the best price, when's it going to be the best rate. Nobody's ever going to find that. Nobody's going to ever target that. The only person ever finds that or actually gets there was already working in it to begin with. They were already buying property. They were already working on these deals. And just so happened when they were on the market was on their way back up, when they just passed that point, they can look behind and say, whoa, check that out. I bought 3 properties at the best time in the market. That's the only way. It's like a guy sitting on the bench in football, conserving his energy to be on the field with the best play of the game, right? The only people who are on the field the best play of the game, the guy who's been playing all damn game. Not the guy sitting his ass on the damn bench waiting for that perfect time to go out there and look like a badass. It doesn't happen that way. You've got to be in the game working, and you got to have the right people with you. You don't have a bunch of teammates that are all a bunch of jerkwads, and you're having to carry it all, right?
Aaron, you've already started the podcast. I haven't even introduced you yet.
Well, maybe I thought this was just one of those conversations we can record and say, guys, there's no introduction, just bam.
Well, I think I definitely want to include the stuff that you just got done talking about. So let's just do kind of an informal introduction now. Let's do the formal introduction now. We are talking.
Let's go. Yeah, let's go backwards.
Let's go backwards. We are talking with Aaron Chapman. And Aaron, you are not your average mortgage lender broker. You're not the average guy. So talk about that a little bit. You're the unconventional, conventional loan guy.
And I've been dubbed that by a few people. And I don't know if you saw that written somewhere, but that's kind of been the thing. And it's not that I do unconventional lending. I do the conventional loans, just their normal Freddie, Fannie, cookie cutter, conventional stuff. what I found is it's a very underserved group because people keep thinking in the box. They keep wrapping themselves up in this box. And so the unconventional piece.
Aaron, let me.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, how do you, like, conventional loans are a box. So how do you get outside that box? It seems like they're a box.
No, it is. I mean, they have rules, right? They have put certain rules in place. Let's get to where those conventional loans come from. Those conventional loans come from somebody's investment capital, whether it be a pension fund, somebody's retirement accounts, mutual funds, you name it. These funds are putting their money into the mortgage-backed securities pools, and then we as banks are taking the money out and lending it to you. And there's a certain amount of interest charged, and everybody makes a piece of that. And the person who put their money in to begin with gets a certain amount of that, and that's their return on investment. Now, to get them to be willing to put their money in there, we have to put rules, right? It's only going to go towards single-family houses or houses or properties that are up to 4 units, but then they get broken down into little buckets, right? You got your 2 to 4 units over here. You got your single families over here. It's got to be investors with this credit score range, and then a different group for investors with other credit score ranges because of the risks associated with each bucket, right? So they get a bigger return or higher interest or more money back for allowing their money to be used for something riskier. So we have to follow those rules. The problem is most banks don't understand real estate investors, so they add more rules to it. Because if you follow the rules but you break the rules at all, you could be forced to buy that deal back. And us lending companies, we start with this finite amount of capital. We don't have the hundreds of billions of dollars available that we need to be able to fund all the deals we do, right? You're talking about a company that funds $1 billion a year in business. They don't have that billion you just have out there going and then do another billion the next year and the next year, the next year. They bundle them up. They sell the servicing rights. They get more money because they get paid that entire amount back and they go lend it again. So they make the spread on that. So many times, many banks want to be very, very risk adverse, and so they'll add more rules. Like we can't count the rents to offset the expense unless you have 2 years of being a investor. We have to see on their tax returns for 2 years, or we can't count that. Well, that stifles a person from their ability to actually buy investment property. That's not the rule. That's the exception. They add that exception to the rule to give them a little bit of a safety margin so they may not have to buy that back. I fought this battle for 5 years. I've been in this since 1997. I started focusing on the real estate investor in 2003 because I love real estate investors. I understand it. I own property in 5 states. I get this. But what I noticed is I was catching hell all the time, about funding investors. Well, maybe you should find a different, group of people to work with, a different business model. I'm like, no, this is what I like. And this is what I appreciate. This is what I enjoy talking to these borrowers. And so I kept pushing and pushing and pushing until just in this last year, all of a sudden, everybody that was giving me hell about it, including the agencies who audited the hell out of us, are now looking at us and think, we like your deals. The reason they like our deals is when you look at all the deals I've written for the last few years, they've showed me the statistics on everything I have in our portfolio. And typically you're looking at maybe 5, 6, maybe 10% of the loans in a portfolio will have late payments. Somebody had missed one payment. Of all the 1,000 I've written, I only know of 2 people that I have on my list that had made a late payment. 2 people. It's not even a percentage, right? It's a fraction of a percentage. So now they're looking at that like, wow, these guys actually pay their bills. I'm like, well, no crap. You're not giving them a low down payment deal. You're not basically handing them free money to buy a house that they can't afford and stretching all their expenses. They're buying something that somebody else is paying for. So why would they not make the payment? That gets me into the real value of real estate. We start getting into understanding what drives this is knowing that having the longest term fixed loan you can get at the highest loan to value has the greatest value of any deal. Too often people think they're spending money and going into debt. And that's what the regular banks think, that they're taking on more debt when they're really not.
So, Aaron, I want to dissect some of that because I think this is important. This is an important issue to talk about because there's so much. So I was not in real estate in 2008, 9 when the bubble hit, and most of the people that got in trouble. This is what I've heard. I've had a lot of people on our podcast. We're in episode 130. I don't even know what episode we're on, but we've done 130 something interview shows, and probably a percentage, 10, 20% of the ones that have been on the show have been in it for at least 10, 15 years. So at least, so they were in it when, the last time it crashed. And I wasn't in it. So I'm just repeating what they said. And it's to a T. They all said the people who got in the most trouble when it crashed were the people who were over leveraged. So I want you to kind of bring that kind of to the forefront of what you're talking about, because you're talking about specifically, for the most part, turnkey real estate, turnkey investment property that someone's going to buy in order to get on a single family, for the most part, that someone can get a return on their money, that they're typically putting 20% or more down in these cases. I want you to talk about, Aaron, over leverage.
So to the point that they were saying, you are correct. It was over leveraging. So you're talking about people back then. Well, you saw The Big Short, right?
I have not. Everybody tells me I need to see it. I haven't seen it.
Dude, why are you not listening? You're reading books, right? You're putting in, 3 hours a day of reading books. Take 2 of those hours.
I don't have Netflix.
2 days. 2 days. I don't care. Go to a Red Box. Drive around out in Birmingham till you find the damn Red Box. Get the movie. And you can also you can download it on Amazon. I think, do you have Google Play? You could buy the thing there for, I think it's like $5 or rent it for $5.
Done.
So you read 3 hours a day.
Done. Today.
Okay.
I'm doing
That's your freaking homework. So, and then what I want to know from you is, who is the real estate investor in that movie? Who is portrayed as the investor? I'm talking somebody with multiple properties. You're going to figure that out, and you're like, holy cow. You can't believe who they portrayed as the real estate investor in there.
The lenders? I don't know.
No, it's not the lenders. The investor. The person who has multiple properties.
Okay, don't leave us
I'll just spoil that part for...
Yeah.
Okay, well, because there's people listening, and they're like, who is he talking about? It's the stripper. There's a part in there where one of the characters was talking with some mortgage guys who are talking about how they keep refining these people and banging them for several points and all that kind of stuff. And they're just bragging about this, doing these loans that you don't have to qualify with income or assets, just get the house, right? Then refine the stripping money back out, and they're buying boats and doing stupid things. Well, one of the guys says that he goes and does it first. He goes and finances strippers because they got cash and they don't have to show their income. They can just buy houses, right? Then he refis them and gets a bunch of money out of them. And he takes these big old chunks of charging them points because they don't care. It's not their money. What do they care? Yeah. Well, they're not renting these houses out. They're not cash flowing on these houses. They're just buying because it's basically free. And then they're listening to this tool bag saying, hey, well, I'll just refinance it. And he just gets more money and they get a lower payment. They keep stretching it out. And they don't really even have to make payments very often because they're borrowing the money from one to make payments on the other. It's a big old Ponzi scheme being done for one individual, right? So you got this stripper in there with 6 properties that, one of the main characters in it is in this club, and she's doing the whole private dancing, and he's talking to her about her houses. She's trying to dance. He's like, no, I just want to talk. She goes, well, I have to dance because, somebody's watching, the security guy's watching. He goes, well, fine, just tell me about this. And that's when he discovered she had 6 properties. If I remember correctly, it was 6. And that's when it hit him. He's like, dude, this is all going to come crashing down. She was so over leveraged that she kept taking money all the way up to the full value of the property. We're also talking about property in a highly inflated state where people weren't living in these houses. That's something you'll also see. There's a lot of empty houses because they were overbuilding, underpopulating. They were underpopulated for the amount of houses that were out there at the time. And people were buying empty houses and just pulling cash out of them like crazy and making the payments on cash they pulled from another property. That's over leverage.
So, Aaron, do you see any signs of that today with you, in particularly with stuff that you see? So
the difference here, because some people will say, well, if Aaron's writing loans for people to get, 20 houses between him and his wife, isn't that over leverage? Well, I don't see it as over leverage when you're talking about 80% loan to values, right? Putting 20% down. These guys weren't putting 20% down. They're putting 0 down. They're getting an investment house or 10, right? And then on top of that, they've got a property that's going to be rented. They have somebody else paying the payment. Do we have a shortage of rentals right now? You don't know? Well, I mean, well, you're probably just looking at your particular area. I'm not sure. But if you look, let's just take West Coast, for instance. I was just looking online.
I want to hear from the expert. Yeah, I want to hear from you.
I was just looking online. I saw that now people are actually charging $1,200 to $1,700 a month for a freaking bunk bed. So I'll
Airbnb.
find no, this is a monthly. No, this is people are going to be living. It's a multi, I can't remember what they called it, but you go in there and they have all these bunk beds stacked up, and you got the lower level where people have their own little space, and then you've got a staircase that goes between the upper level ones. And people are living in these things, and they're charging a significant amount of capital to live in them because they want to live in a small area. They don't want to have a whole bunch of responsibility. And it's over $1,000 a month because there's not enough housing. People are looking for stuff that's lower value housing. Now, go back to before the crash. Trying to rent my house out. The house I live in now would rent for right around $1,000 a month. Now, almost $3,000 a month. The house hasn't changed.
Why?
I'm still in the same house from before the crash.
Why is there such a big demand for housing right now?
Well, one, they stopped building, right? So the building didn't expand the way that it was. Now they're still building now, but from what I understand, from all the economic data I'm being given and the housing data, there's not enough housing to meet the needs of the population at this point. Now, can it flip the other direction? Possibly. But for the real estate investor right now, who's purchasing property in many of these markets, the majority of people are renting. And it seems to me that they're going to continue down that path because of one thing. And to me, this is the most valuable thing when it comes to us as in real estate investors is inflation. What is today's inflation rate? Do you know?
No idea.
The government says 2%. That's the CPI. The core inflation rate is 2% according to them. But there's certain things they don't add in. They don't add in energy costs. They don't add in food costs. And I don't believe they add in taxes. Pretty sure they don't add in taxes. They just talk about certain aspects of the economy and that they're keeping the cost of inflation or the cost of living to a 2% inflationary rate every year. Now, let's add those back in. Let me ask this question of you. When was the last time you saw your grocery bill go down with the exact same amount of groceries?
You got to ask my wife. I have no idea.
Well, I remember as a kid that in line with my mom, and my mom, when she shopped, she's like a professional. We had a train of like 3 or 4 carts loaded. And she would go early in the morning. She'd kick me out of bed at 4 a.m. We'd go before anybody else comes. The stalkers are still filling stuff up, and she's grabbing. We got this train of carts. We have people working there helping us get the carts out and load up her car full. And we could barely fit in there with all the groceries. And she would spend under $200. Now, $200, I can carry all that stuff out in 2 hands. The cost of things have gone way up. When was the last time you paid less per kilowatt on your electricity?
I don't track it. I should, but I'm assuming it's the same thing.
It never has. It's never gone down. It keeps going up. Yeah. Same with your water. You're not paying less per gallon of water. It keeps going up. Taxes keep going up. They keep finding new things they got to tax us for, right? So because of those alone, you go take a look at a place called shadowstats.com, as in shadow statistics. That was presented to me by the professor of accounting at Kennesaw State University. He heard me on a podcast talking about this. He called me up. He's like, I need you at my school. You need to speak to my students. And he evolved from speaking to his students to now I'm contributing to some changes to the curriculum. And so the accounting division over there has got all kinds of cool things happening. He's trying to bring practical data to the accounting world on how to look at things from practicality with the economy. So he showed me that shadowstats.com. So you go there, you click on alternate data. There's a drop-down menu across the top. You scroll down to inflation, and it will show you charts where they add those things back in. The actual rate of inflation right now is about 5.5% from the last time I checked. Yeah, I saw the look on your face, 5.5%. So think about that.
Whoa.
Cost of living is going up at 5.5% per year based upon their numbers. And it's at other times higher than that. So how does that benefit the real estate investor? Many people are like, well, why is that a benefit? Well, we get to raise rents to face inflation, correct?
I don't know.
Well, most people do. So national average right now is 3.6%.
Is
what they're raising the rents every year. Well, that's okay. That's just not where you're looking. I'm staring at this crap all the time. So
that's why you're on the show. You're the expert. We're bringing the experts on the show.
Exactly.
It's not my area of expertise at all.
If you knew everything, you wouldn't need me. Yeah, I'd be of no value to you if you knew all this. So if we are able to increase our rents, let's just say 3%. National average of 3.6. I know highly populated areas have rent control, so that's kind of skewing that number a bit. So let's say it's 3%. So the average, let's say you're renting a house for $1,000 a month. What is 3% of 1,000?
30.
$30. Right on. $30 is not a big sexy number, right? They'll give you a latte and maybe one of those little sprinkle covered donut thingies at one of the coffee shops. But $30 is not huge.
Yeah, but if you amortize, or if you go over the course of 10, 15, 20 years holding a property, it's a big number.
That gets to be a big number. We're going to talk about where it becomes a really big number right away. So $1,000 a month, let's say your cash flow is $200 a month. Nobody gets really excited about $200 a month cash flow, right? But if you just raised it the next year by 3% on the 1,000, that's $30. That $30 is equal to a 15% increase in your cash flow. You just raise your cash flow by 15%. And it's going to compound the next year and the next year and the next year. Now you have a compound growth on that cash flow. Now, eventually you're going to see the taxes go up, but it's not going to pace at the rate that you're seeing your cash flow go up. So you got this increasing cash flow, right? So if we get to raise rents to pace inflation, does the bank who gave you the 30-year fix get to raise the payment on the loan to pace inflation? No, it's fixed for 30 years. That means somebody out there stuck their money in that bond pool, the banks borrowed it, took it, lent it out to you, and you are now pay them the exact same dollar amount for 30 years. And based on shadow stats information, that dollar is losing value every single year. You're raising your income, you're paying them less, you get to keep the spread. By standing in the middle, accepting the rent, and paying the loan, you're keeping that gap, right? So my question to people is, who's screwing who? A lot of times they think, well, if you look at the amortization table and all the interest they charge, really at a rate of inflation of 5.5%, are they really getting that interest? They're not getting anything. Right now, I'm doing interest rates. I'm doing loans under 5% for 80%, or right at 5%. So we're outpacing inflation right now with the way that the interest is.
So let me throw this wrench into it. And first of all, Aaron, that's incredible stuff. That's stuff that I don't hear on a regular basis. Our audience doesn't hear on a regular basis. My circles that I run into don't hear on a regular basis. So that's incredible stuff. We're definitely going to
before you toss your wrench in, let me throw something else out there to kick around. Because then this may make your big wrench bigger or smaller. We'll just see. And I don't mind dodging wrenches. So I was on a podcast and I was talking about this, and about 10 minutes after I talked about that, the host stops me and says, "Hey, sorry, I hadn't even been listening to you the last 10 minutes, but I did some research about that inflation thing." He goes, "I'd never thought about that before. That had never been brought up before and any of the stuff I've done." He goes, "But I did some research real quick to see what really has happened to the dollar's value." He goes, "And I found some statistics." He goes, and he asked me this question. He goes, "What do you think was the value of the dollar in 1930? As far as the buying power of a dollar in 1930 compared to 2019. So I'll ask you the same thing. How different do you think that is?"
Well, it should be $1 in 1930 because we were on the gold standard then, right? So it should be $1 should have been worth $1.
So a dollar bought $1 worth of crap, right? But how far does $1 go today compared to then, as far as goods and services?
I would say $1 to a 1932 dollar probably goes what, 30 or 40 cents.
Okay, so you're looking backwards on its value. Well, that's true. I mean, if you're looking at today's thing, but it's actually worse than that. He said it would take $220 today to equal the buying power of $1 in 1930.
$220.
That was the claim. So and I had to stop. I was like, okay, I got to analyze this real quick. I got to wrap my head around this. Well, $1 a day in wages in 1930 was probably pretty decent, right? If you're making $15, $20 a month in 1930, from what I've looked at, it seems like it was a decent living. Today, $220 a day is a decent wage, right? Unless you're in California, then you're in poverty.
Yeah.
But $220 a day is a decent wage. $1 a day back then was a decent wage. $1 stretched further than it did today. $220, as we've proven, doesn't stretch real far. You know, a few bags of groceries. So when you think about it in that respect, that's 90 years ago, right? 89 years to be exact. Let's round up to make it even give them a little bit of a of a buffer here. Say it's 90 years. Well, a 30-year fixed mortgage fits in that 90 years 3 times, right? So let's take that 220, just using this as a metric, divide that by 3. That means when a person closes on a loan today, if that pace, as far as the dollar value stayed at that same pace because of inflation, then that means that when they pay off that loan 30 years from now, the dollar will have lost 73.33 times its value during that time frame. So if it's losing it at that accelerated rate and you're charging an increased income to the renter at an accelerated rate, it makes 0 sense to accelerate your payment. It makes 0 sense to pay off those mortgages. It makes 0 sense to put more money down. It makes the most sense to put the least amount down you can and stretch it as far as you can.
So this is the wrench. Here's the wrench. And you said, like at the very beginning of the show, that the people, you can't time the market. It's just like, it's one of those things that is very, very difficult to do. The people who try to do it probably end up getting in a lot of trouble. But that being said, a lot of people are predicting that we are at the top of the market cycle, that things are going to start coming down. And in some areas, people have even said things are already starting to come down and starting to correct. With everything that you just got done saying, Aaron, how, I brought up the point of being over leveraged as well. We can't time the market. We don't think we're over leveraged because we're putting 20% down, but what if the worst were to happen? What if my property's worth 10 to 20% less in the next 2 years? Now, all these
10
numbers,
to 20% doesn't put you, not necessarily. It all depends upon, well, again, goes back to you as the CEO. Are you buying an asset that's going to remain rented or reasonably remain rented, right? Are you getting a good team to work with you? You have to adapt to the environment. Now, can the market shift on us? Sure as heck can. The reason when that shift happened to us before, people didn't have any assets to fall back on. You know, what I'm seeing, many of the investors I have now, they're being very, very intelligent about that. We talk about that. What do you have for assets to back you up? They didn't have a requirement in the past for, for reserves. We do now. You have to have a certain amount of reserve to fall back on. And I also explain to those who I'm talking with, keep a lot of that cash flow coming in and keep putting it aside in reserves, build up some backup to deal with this. And what I personally have, I have enough money sitting aside. So when it does come down, I'm going back in, I'm going in hard. We can sit here and what if ourselves to death? What if this? What if that? I'm not worried about what if. I'm burning my damn boats. I've got my machete. I'm heading into the jungle. I'm going to cut me a path to where I'm going regardless of what's happening around me. So when that time happens, I'm going to thank the real estate gods that now I can buy a bunch more properties cheaper because that opportunity is going to be here. So
what I feel like I hear you saying is, you know, you talked about that $200 cash flow number. It doesn't really seem really sexy. You know, obviously if you multiply that by 10 or 20 or 30 houses, it starts to get a little sexier. But what I think I hear you saying is even a couple $100 a month, just if you don't need it, don't use it. Let's put it aside in this account. Let this account build up. Obviously, we have this account for reserves, but we also have this account for when and if the market corrects.
Exactly. And then you can go and you take advantage of a market correction. You know, people made fortunes when there was blood in the streets. And they run from the market when it was at its peak. It's just the way it was. Now, when it comes to that thought process right there, one of those things you just said is very, very key. Don't use it if you don't need it. Now, I had a mentor of mine. He didn't know he was a mentor of mine, but I made him one because he told me one time, you stick with what got you there. Mm-hmm. So many real estate investors keep saying, well, I want to retire by 45 years old and I'm going to use real estate to do that. Well, that sounds like a very valid thought process. I can get behind that. But once they start getting into it, I really, really encourage them that once you have this real estate working, you start seeing this growth, you start seeing this value increasing in your holdings, it's not so bad to go to work anymore because you have a different reason to go to work. It's paying you enough money to live and have the extra to put more down payments on more houses because you got it from somewhere. That didn't just miracle its way into your pocket. You had a plan, which is to buy investment houses so you can get out of your job. Now your job is to continue to keep expanding the plan. Don't walk away. Retirement. What the hell is retirement? I'm not intending to retire. When I go to the grave, I'm coming in hot. There's no reason that I need to walk away and go sit on my rocking chair and die slowly. When I die, it better be there better be flames involved, is what I'm saying. And that's how I go about my life when it comes to my business. I used to want to retire. I don't want to now. I have too damn much to do. I have too many lives to change. I have too much of this to try and help others do. And they want to be able, once they get involved and start seeing the growth potential and the capability they have, and they have meaning to their life, there's fewer people saying, I want to retire. They come to me saying, I want to retire. Now, like, what's retirement? I'm going to go out there and be and actually produce something. I'm going to be of value to others. I'm going to have to show my friends how to do this. I'm going to build this real estate. I'm going to help people have a good place to live. You know, and me, I'm expanding into that. We talked about the YouTube channel. Not only doing the loans, but now I want to help people understand on a different level. So now I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have adventures and play and have a good time with the people I care about. And then I want to see their business flourish. And we're going to get their word out at the same time.
So let's transition to that, because I want to talk about that more. I actually just wrote that down. You said the phrase a second ago that you don't want to retire. You don't want this junk. You have too many lives to change. What does that mean to you, and what are you doing about it?
Well, one, I'm here with you on this podcast.
And we're appreciative.
Podcast opportunities, and thank you. And thank you for reaching out to me about it. It's been a long time I be able to sit down and record something. But accepting opportunity to do this. The first time you and I talked, you remember that? You called me up and said, hey, what do you charge to come in? What if I fly you in, and how much would you charge? Like, well, who's going to be there? We explained what the crowd was going to be like. There was going to be people that needed content. I just came because people wanted content and needed content. And I know I have something different to share. We talked about the practical application of gratitude there. That right there, having that opportunity to share that was huge, because I got so many people's feedback that said it changed their life to think of gratitude in a different way, to actually understand how it practically applies. So now I've taken that and I've dominoed that into books. I've got 4 books being written. And I'm not doing, they're actually already written. They're with a publisher now. I just proofread one of the proofs. I'm making some changes, and they've got my 3 covers done and all that kind of thing. The reason it's 4 books, because I got with a ghostwriter to begin with, and we sat down for 2 days, did a massive recording. They compiled it, built the book, handed it to me. I read it. I'm like, I don't like it. It's crap. It's not me. I didn't say any of that. You took your interpretation of my stuff and you created your words. That's not my words. So then what I did was I looked at rewriting it, which I did, and they're great. They were good at what they did, but the problem is it wasn't my phrases. And I rewrote it, but I didn't like how it flowed. So now, instead of having one big, thick 200-page book to get through, I broke it down into multiple little 30-page books. And I'm diving deep into the topic, and I'm going just straight into the details of it and getting out. None of this filler crap. It was Cliff Notes. Cliff Notes made a fortune off of condensing it down to the real value of the book, right? Taking 200 pages down to 30. Well, I'm not going to let those bastards get to my book. I'm going straight to the 30 pages, and that's it. So I'm taking each topic, I'm going straight to the 30, and I'm cutting it up into 12 books. Now, whether I'll get a full 12 with real deep meaning, I don't know. But I've got 4 right now with deep meaning. I'm working on 5 and 6 right now. And if anybody tells me I can't get through a 30-page book, well, screw you, don't buy the book. Because I understand having a hard time trudging through 200 pages of filler. I get that. I'm not going to give them filler.
So, Aaron, I'm excited. Do you have a projected release date for the first 4?
I don't. You think that I would, but it's supposed to be this year, probably sometime in late fall. Okay. Late fall, and then I'll get you copies of them as they come out. Come straight to you.
I'm a crazy reader, so I'm very excited to definitely get a hold of that. Real quick, before I dig into this next question, I do want to acknowledge something that you said a second ago about you. You asked me if I remember the first time we spoke. Yeah, I cold called you. So yeah, I definitely remember it. I remember it vividly. And guys, Aaron came to Birmingham in March of 2017, right when we launched. I launched what was ALAREA, the Alabama Real Estate Investor Association. I launched that in January of 2017. Aaron graciously, and Aaron, you were at my 3rd meeting ever. You were the keynote speaker at my 3rd meeting ever. You were the very first person who ever came in from out of town to speak. And now we've rebranded. We're REI Live, Real Estate Investing Live. And we hardly ever have local speakers now. We're always bringing in great out-of-town speakers. And you were the first one that believed in me and came. And I kind of know why a little bit now, but I still don't really know why you came out here just to speak to that cross. But I just want to thank you publicly for doing that. And guys, the keynote, which Aaron completely knocked out of the park, the keynote is actually on our YouTube channel. We'll link that up in the show notes, so you can go back and watch it if you want to. But I just want to say
thanks, dude. And I appreciate you saying that, because I just went because I need to go to Alabama. I wanted to check it out, and I do a lot of business out there. And you gave me an opportunity to get in front of people and make a difference. And then one of the things I remember when you picked me up from the airport, because you were asking me for a headshot. You wanted my bio on my headshot, and I wouldn't give you a headshot. I'm like, no, you're not getting a headshot. Well, everybody gives headshots. Well, I don't give headshots. Well, then you picked me up from the airport, and I climbed in and you weren't even looking at me. You're like, I'm here. You're on the phone as I'm walking up to your car, and you're looking past me. I get in your vehicle, and I sit down. And you're like, now I see why you didn't want to give me a headshot. And
it wasn't that bad.
You said that, but you damn said that. I do remember saying that because I liked it. I like the fact that you said that, because I don't like giving headshots. I didn't like giving headshots, and because people have a certain expectation when they think what do you want to call it? Lender is coming, and all these lenders dress the same, they look the same, they act the same, they say the same crap over and over again. That's not me. But the problem of it is, if you put a headshot up somewhere, like on a at least I used to think this. You put this headshot up somewhere, people give an expectation, right? Well, I didn't want anybody to have an expectation. I wanted to walk in that room with expecting to see a guy walk up there in a suit and then see me. And then when I got introduced, I'm trying to remember his name that introduced me.
Jay Baxter.
Jay introduced me. I just closed 5 transactions for Jay. He had never seen me. And then he's up there talking. And then he's like, is there anyone in the room? And I got up and walked up there, and his face was just, it was awesome. Then he gives me a hug, and he's like, you don't look like you. Because I don't look like I look on the phone. It's funny as heck. I really enjoy that whole thing. Now I don't care. The face goes out there. If people don't like it, I sort through people really quickly. If you don't like what I look like and that's going to be your decision, good. Then I'll waste my time.
Aaron, when did you know that you were the unconventional, conventional loan guy? When did you feel that and actually start to embrace that?
It was in about 2014. I'd always kind of been a little bit rebellious, but still tried to participate in what everybody else was doing, kind of walk the talk, because everybody was telling me to do that. Well, I was walking with a very close friend of mine, he and his wife, and this is actually also in one of the books that's not in the publisher yet. I'm still working on it. And he puts his arm around. He owns a large insurance firm here and a large wealth management firm. Now, as we're walking down the street, he puts his arm around me and he said, I want to see you really successful. I'm like, me too. I mean, I want to see myself successful. He goes, well, I want to blow your business up. I'm going to have my marketing department get with you, and they're going to get with all the real estate agents in Arizona. We're going to blow you up. We're going to make sure Aaron Chapman is known by everybody. I was taken back. I'm like, that is awesome. I'm like, dude, thank you. I appreciate you being willing to do that. I'm like, what do I got to do? He's like, just one thing. And I was like, well, what's that? He goes, you need to conform more. Well, at the time, I still had the shaved head and I had the beard. I got the beard. That came from a motorcycle accident. Woke up in the hospital with a beard, and I'm leaving the damn beard, right? But I kept it trimmed, kept it clean, and I always wore a black slacks and a black shirt. That was just kind of how I rolled. And he, at that time, telling me I needed to conform more. I had to stop for a second. I'm like, well, what does that mean? So, buy a suit, shave, starts telling me how I need to dress. He goes, that's how I have all my agents do it. That's how we look. And if you're part of our organization and you're going to be endorsed by us, that's how you have to look. So what he presented to me was the ability to climb aboard his fleet of ships and sail in some very, very, very fruitful waters. And I was guaranteed success because he has a very, very successful presence here. He's a very successful guy. But then I looked internally at me, and that's not me. I'd look at him and I had to thank him profusely. I expressed my appreciation and that I cared deeply for this guy and that he cared enough. But I also tell him to F off. That as much as I wanted something like that, I couldn't compromise me. And I still thanked him. So at that point, I started realizing it. He pointed out, as only a good fan could, even though he didn't know it, that I was straddling two sides of this line, conforming and non-conforming at the same time. I decided at that point that I'm not going to board his ships. I'm looked straight to this jungle. I have no idea where it's going to take me. I grabbed my machete and I started cutting. And while I was cutting, I found who I was in there. Let the beard grow. I found the ability to figure out how to braid the dang thing, right? The steel hat. There's a reason I wear a steel chainsaw hat. All these things came about. I have like 30 of these Dickies shirts. In fact, a buddy of mine laughs at me. He owns a large real estate firm here. He's like, I'm seeing a guy wearing a really expensive watch, an extremely expensive pair of boots, and a $30 shirt. He goes, it makes no sense. He goes, but that's you. You make sense of what you make sense of, right? And then I've got all the same jeans because I wear the same thing all the time, because now I understand that it's not about trying to fit with everybody else. It's about being me. And I'm not about to compromise me. And that was the catalyst. And that's when I decided to start moving forward with that. And it's evolved over time, because I didn't have the hat when I was there in Alabama. Right. I developed that in the last couple of years. Right. And so it's just something that I've come to realization on.
Well, I think that there's a great lesson in that story for all of us, that I think authenticity, that word gets thrown out around a lot, but are we really and truly being authentic, not only to others, but even to ourselves? So I think that's a great story. And Aaron, I just want to tell everybody who's listening, you work with, some really big names in real estate. You're working with all the big turnkey companies. You work with turnkey companies that are right here in our hometown, Birmingham, and have been doing it for a very long time. And I suspect that your business started to really take off about the time that you started being authentic and real with yourself.
Oh, it really took off. I mean, it was when I got real with myself. You mentioned 2017, right? So I was sitting there in 2017. I wrote this vision, and it's part of the book. The very first book talks about this. And that's when I really decided to become authentic. That's where the hat stays on my head. I got like 8 of these hats, right? And everything I decided, everybody's going to get me as blunt force trauma as they can take of me. And that's when I just decided to go that direction. I went from doing a couple hundred transactions a year to last year I did 707 transactions for real estate investors. And our goal is 985 at some point. And then we just keep going. And it's, you're right. And I didn't really put that together until just now. That finding that authenticity and deciding, but then just because you decide doesn't mean it actually all comes out. It's a process. It's a process to allow yourself to get to that point, to be 100% authentic with people.
Is that a confidence thing?
Well, yeah, because it was 2014 when I started to go my direction. I said, forget you, I'm going this way, right? It wasn't until 2017 that I broke 600 transactions. It was 2017 when I decided, I don't give a damn about the headshots anymore. I did with you. Back then I did. I don't anymore. In fact, I'm waving my flag. And if when you see me rolling in the port, you know what I'm about just by looking at me walking in, right? But I was not willing to do that because I still had a little bit of confidence level lacking a little bit, I guess you can say. Now I don't care. Put my picture everywhere. I'll be on anything. It doesn't matter. In fact, if you look at my website right now, aaronbchapman.com, you'll see, bam, right there, me in front of my cabin in that chair that I created with mind and pen, looking just like me. I'm not sugarcoating the damn thing anymore.
Aaron, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I can't thank you enough for, just personally speaking, for taking a chance on me, taking a chance on our group, and coming out and speak to us a couple of years ago. We got to have you back. We got to have you back in Birmingham. I know you come to Birmingham every once in a while, but because you have clients here. But we got to have you back here to speak to our crowd. And I just want to thank you again for not only coming on the show, but just what you've meant for us and what we're trying to do here. So appreciate you, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you willing to reach out and bring me back on and let me know the schedule. I'll put it in the schedule, get my butt back out there.
So before we go, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. The conventional real estate broker or mortgage broker. How can people get a hold of you? How can people do business with you?
Best way to go is just go to aaronbchapman.com. B as in boy, that's not the middle name, but aaronbchapman.com. I do have aaronchapman.com now. I just haven't run it live yet. It's taken me years to get my hands on that handle. So aaronbchapman.com, and you can just go in there and reach out to me through that. You can pretty much run all your business as far as the lending side right off of that site. Do your applications, upload your data, all of that. We're trying to make it better. So we just got a new site out. Please check it out.
And guys, as you've heard on this show, Aaron is just an absolutely brilliant person when it comes to numbers and real estate. And that's why I wanted to have you on the show. Not just because I love you and I appreciate you, but you are super, super intelligent when it comes to this stuff. And I'm gonna go do my homework. I got to watch The Big Short today. I'm gonna try to get my hands on that, and I'm gonna send you an email and tell you what I thought about it. So I'm definitely going to make that happen. Guys, we love you so much. Make sure you reach out to Aaron B as in boy, AaronBChapman.com. Reach out to him for anything, even if it, obviously if you have loan needs for sure, but he's got a lot of great content out there as well. So you definitely need to be checking that out. And we love you guys. Hit the subscribe button and we'll see you next time.